14. In this lesson, we will take the residual sum of squares, which we encountered in linear regression models, and we will connect it to the chi-square distribution. This is a proof often left out of textbooks, and even in the Elements of Statistical Learning, we just see the expression stated for us to consume. We do not see the derivation. That's where we want to plug the gap. Also, as the book suggests, this expression can be used for hypothesis testing, and we will demonstrate how exactly you can do that. Now, before you dive into this lesson, we have specifically made lesson 12 and lesson 13, which are prerequisites for you to really understand this expression of RSS connecting with chi-square. Now, if you are aware of the fact that when standard normal variables square, they become chi-square, you are good. You can skip lesson 12. If you are aware of the Cochran's theorem, which basically tells us that when standard normal variables square with a weight in between, how it defines the degrees of freedom of the resultant chi-square. If you are aware of this fact, you can skip lesson 13. If not, just go through these lessons and then come back to lesson 14. Now, in the book, we have the expression for sigma square hat stated, which is 1 by n minus p minus 1 multiplied by the sum of squares of the error. So if you look at y hat basically consumes p plus 1 features. So the degrees of freedom becomes n minus p minus 1 because you have p features, 1 bias. Now, very simply put, yi is the true ground truth y value and y hat I is the model estimate. So for each I, you are basically calculating the residual between the two, not the error, but the residual. Residual is the estimate of the error. So, and when we square it and add it for the whole data set, it becomes the sum of square of errors, right? Now, for this expression, we divide by n minus p minus 1 because it keeps it unbiased. We will focus on yi minus yi hat square added for the whole data. And this exploration, this focus on this expression will help us define the statistical properties which we have discussed. Now, if we look at this algebraic expression, which is yi minus yi hat square added for the whole data set, we can vectorize this. We can vectorize this where we have the ground truth vector y, which is subtracted from the model estimate y hat. Both of them are vectors. And we can typically demonstrate how this vector looks like. So this vector is a column vector, and each component is a measure of the residual epsilon hat. And the first expression is the same vector in the row form. Now, when you perform this matrix multiplication, you get the algebraic expression back, right? So this is just a demonstration of the shapes in action. Now, we vectorized it, but we can perform some more substitutions, and those substitutions are nothing but our linear regression model assumptions. So the true y as per the linear regression model assumptions, and there's a lesson in the description which covers this, is x, which is the input feature matrix, and the true model parameter beta plus the true model error epsilon. We do not know epsilon. We do not know beta. Note there's no hat, but this is the linear regression model assumption. Now, as part of ordinary least squares linear regression model estimates, we get y hat, which is our model estimate, which is the input feature matrix x multiplied by beta hat. Beta hat becomes our ordinary least squares estimate of beta. So these are two things which we know from previous lessons. We will use these two expressions which we saw in the previous slide and perform some simple substitutions. So we have the vectorized form. Now in the vectorized form for y, which is the ground truth, we make the substitution x beta plus epsilon. And for y hat, we make the substitution x beta hat. Now we have gone from an expression to y into an expression related to x and beta. Easy. We can club the similar looking terms together, which is x beta minus x beta hat. Okay. Can we simplify this further? We can, yes, definitely simplify this further if we focus on the first two terms here, x beta minus x beta hat. We'll try to get a concise summary for these two expressions. Let's go to the next slide. Now, recall that beta hat is equal to x transpose x inverse x transpose y. This is, you can check the previous lesson. Further, we know from the previous slide that x beta plus epsilon is equal to the true y. Now we put this y value into the OLS term. So you get a slightly enhanced beta hat expression where the y has been substituted. Our aim is to simplify x beta minus x beta hat, by the way. Now, impute the beta hat value into our target expression, and you get this slightly complicated looking term, but it's nothing very major. Perform the matrix multiplication into the brackets, so you get these two slightly large expressions. But to our relief, as you can see, x transpose x inverse and x transpose x are inverses to each other, and they can get cancelled out, right? So that's a big relief. So what do you get? You get x beta minus, within the brackets, you get another x beta plus, you get the hat matrix getting multiplied by the true model error epsilon. So the hat matrix has come back to us again, which is good. And x beta minus x beta cancels out. So basically x beta minus x beta hat is equal to minus hat matrix multiplied by epsilon. So as you can see, the highly complicated looking term has undergone a very nice simplification, which is equal to minus hat matrix epsilon. And we will substitute this back into our expression. So this is our initial vectorized residual sum of squares expression. We know that x beta minus x beta hat is equal to minus h epsilon. Put this value, and you can see both LHS and RHS are same. We put the minus h epsilon values. Also note that h is symmetric and H is an idempotent matrix. Symmetric meaning that even if we transpose the matrix, it is the same matrix. Idempotent means that if H is multiplied by itself, we get H back. Can we prove it? As you can see, we have written the value of H in expressions of X. When it multiplies with each other, the inverses sitting next to them cancels and you get h back. Okay, we've discussed this many times. Now, can we use this fact and simplify our expression? Yes, just do a simple matrix multiplication. So the transpose term, when we can be entered into the brackets, so we've got the transpose operator inside the brackets, and now it's just up to us to do a simple algebraic multiplication, nothing major. So you get h epsilon transpose h epsilon, h is epsilon transpose into epsilon, epsilon transpose into minus he, epsilon transpose into epsilon transpose. Nothing overly complicated. Let's try to simplify this further. Now, this is where we got the slightly crystallized expression, but we can definitely simplify this further. Before we simplify this, let's just quickly look at epsilon. Now, epsilon is, as we know from linear regression model assumptions, is a normal random variable, which has mean zero and variance sigma square. Okay. Now, if we are able to divide epsilon by sigma, can we calculate the variance of epsilon by sigma? The variance of epsilon by sigma from the variance identity becomes variance of epsilon divided by sigma square, because the constant squared itself, which is equal to 1. So it's a great convenience, you'll see in the later slides, that if we can divide the epsilon by sigma, it becomes the standard normal variable, and that is much easier to work with. So just keep this in the back of your mind. So we will use the symmetric and the idempotent properties of H to simplify our expression. HH equal to H, H transpose is equal to H. So here we have an HH, it becomes H. Okay. We have an H transpose, becomes H. Okay. Now, can we do some cancellations? Yes, we can. So these first two expressions cancel out. And what we are left with? We are left with E transpose E plus minus E transpose HE. Very nice. Can we simplify this further? We can. We see that, okay, on the first expression we have E transpose and E. In the middle, there's H. Here we have E transpose and E. Imagine there's an identity matrix sandwiched between these two. So, very simply put, you can do E transpose into I minus H, which is the identity matrix I multiplied by E. So, you have this nice looking singular expression now, and we just use the identity matrix to make it consistent. Now, shall we make epsilon equal to the standard normal variable? We can. Why don't we divide by sigma square on both sides, on the left hand side and on the right hand side? So on the left hand side, you have, just for clarity's sake, I put one sigma under one expression, but it's basically sigma square division on both sides. Epsilon by sigma becomes standard normal, z. So we have zt into I minus h, z. Now, if you are not aware of the Cochran's theorem, kindly refer to lesson 13. But very simply put, this is an expression which the Cochran theorem is able to greatly simplify. So you have the standard normal variable getting multiplied with itself again, squaring itself is a quadratic form, and in between there's a weight. The weight is also symmetric and idempotent. When we reach these conditions of standard normal variable squaring, and in between there's a symmetric and idempotent matrix, the Cochran theorem activates. Refer to lesson 13. This expression is equal to chi-square with degrees of freedom n minus p minus 1. N minus p minus 1 also happens to be the trace of I minus h, or the rank of I minus h, which you will see in lesson 13. So, congratulations, you've reached the final expression. So, you have the residual sum of squares divided by sigma square equal to the chi-square in n minus p minus 1 degrees of freedom. Let's simplify this further. So recall from our first few slides that this complicated looking expression is nothing but y minus y hat, y minus y hat. So the chi-square is equal to the y minus y hat, doing a squaring with y minus y hat divided by sigma square. Okay, we put this here. We needn't mention these large expressions again. It's basically the first term. And if we just do some simple transpose, we take the sigma square to the left. So you have sigma square, which is our assumed model variance, is equal to the chi-square in n minus p minus 1 degrees of freedom, which is equal to the residual of sum of squares. And you have proven the result. So now you know that the residual sum of squares is chi-square multiplied by a constant. This allows us to do very useful hypothesis testing. Let's see that in the next slide. So, as we know, we can plot the chi-square just with knowing the degrees of freedom. So you can plot this curve. Uh, Plot on the extreme left and on the extreme right a portion which has alpha probability of occurring. So these are our low probability zones. Okay, just assume that the null hypothesis is that the model's true variance is equal to sigma square. It's an assumed value. And if our hypothesis test fails, the model's true variance is not equal to sigma square. That's what we will assume. Okay. Now, since we're dealing with the chi-square, shall we just have the chi-square on the left-hand side? Can we just take sigma square to the denominator? So when you fit a linear regression model, you would get the residual sum of squares, which you can easily calculate. And if you really want to know what the true sigma square is, naturally you assume a value. RSS is obviously an estimate, right? Sigma square hat is obviously an estimate. But when it comes to the denominator, we can assume or test. So let's say you assume a particular value of sigma square. Now, if you calculate this ratio, you get the chi-square value. If this chi-square value is sitting in this white portion, it's reasonable enough to say that you don't have enough evidence to reject the null hypothesis. Sigma square may not be the exact value, but we don't have enough evidence to refute that claim that sigma square is not the true model variance. So we don't have enough evidence to reject sigma square. But if this ratio falls into these red zones, the low probability zones, you will have to reject the null hypothesis clearly your assumption of sigma square is wrong. Sigma square is something different, right? So that's how you perform hypothesis testing for an assumed value of sigma square when it comes to trying to estimate the linear regression true variance. Well, congratulations, you're one of those few students who can hand derive and apply the statistical property of linear regression residual sum of squares. You've proven that the residual sum of squares is connected to the chi-square random variable. You can also perform hypothesis testing and check if the assumed variance is representative of model assumptions. So pat yourself on the back and see you in the next lesson.